wanted the station approach road to lead down from the overbridge at the western end of the layout to the car park behind the station. To help decide the size and shape of the roadway, I started off with some card template mock-ups. Card templates are quick and easy to make and give a good three-dimensional image of how the final project will look on the layout. When the first attempt was placed on the layout, it was pretty obvious that it was both too short and the gradient too steep. A longer version was constructed, which looked much better. The gradient was less steep and the whole thing fitted much better into the station yard. The approach road was cut from a favourite material of mine, 1.5mm plasticard. I wanted the gradient to be even and consistent all the way down, so the height of each support was calculated and its position carefully marked on the underside of the road surface. Once completed, it was fixed to the baseboard using PVA glue. The road surface was painted with Humbrol enamels and Scenic scatter was glued along the edges. The grey is supposed to represent chippings that have been moved by traffic, whilst the brown is soil, dust, etc. that gathers alongside all roads. I'm not entirely happy with this appearance and will probably go over it later once the scenery is in place. Basic scenery shapes were now added using a variety of items. The project was started during the coronavirus lockdown, so I used whatever materials I had to hand. The polystyrene parts are offcuts from spare packing materials and the card pieces from old cereal boxes. The cliff face is several pieces of polystyrene glued together and then roughed up with various sharp tools, saw blades, knives, screwdrivers, etc. Pieces of ply that were lying around in the garage were shaped and glued to the baseboard to add some strength to the hillside at the eastern end of the layout. You can begin to see the general outline of the hill in this shot. The roof over the tunnel is a flattish piece of polystyrene with some other odd shapes glued on top. It does all look a bit of a mess at this stage, but it will be covered up with Mod Rock. 2 or 3 layers of Mod Rock have now been plastered onto the polystyrene formers. A pack of 4 rolls was sufficient for the whole layout, with just a little left over to fill the inevitable gaps. The surface of the cliff face has been roughed up some more and has had vertical channels scribed in it to represent where water may have drained down. This vertical channeling also helps to draw the eye from the horizontal joins between the pieces of polystyrene. The car park surface was made using bathroom tiling grouting cement, which I found in the garage. Once dry, it was filed smooth with fine sandpaper and then sealed with a dilute mix of PVA prior to painting. The whole area has now had acrylic paint added. The car park has had the first coats of grey and the brown area is to represent soil found in a yard area. The cliff face has now had various colours of acrylic paint added. The Mod Rock has had a couple of coats of burnt umber acrylic paint and still doesn't look quite right, but this will be covered up by grass in the next stage. The only parts on view will be where the grass doesn't adhere very well. The cliff face has had even more different colours of acrylic added. At this stage, the acrylic surface on the car park not only looked too dark, but more importantly had a very shiny surface, which was particularly obvious when looking towards the light. It was decided, therefore, to repaint it using enamel paints and at the same time ensure that the colour matched the colour on the approach road. Woodland Scenic scatter was applied to all the grass areas on top of a dilute mix of PVA. A mix of 2 colours of fine and coarse turf was used, plus some Javis material that I had to hand to try and vary the colours of the finished product. I had a lot of trouble getting the scatter to stick, and initially too much soil showed through, so I won't dwell on the methods I used, but suffice it to say several attempts were necessary before I achieved the result you see here. The layout now has some basic scenery and is starting to look much more like a proper layout, but looks a little bare, so there's a lot more to do yet. Bushes and trees will be needed and more soil put alongside the roads and in the yard. Lockdown means that unfortunately I have run out of suitable materials, so this will have to wait for now. A further video will follow, but in the meantime I will be constructing some more buildings. That's all for now. See you next time.